So, Jarchomp Collectibles, one of the biggest PokeTubers in this hobby, has been scammed out of $3,000 over this card that you see on your screen. And with fakes getting better and better by the day, it's getting harder and harder for collectors like you and me to navigate the landscape and not get scammed. But what if I told you that I was able to tell 2 months ago that this card was fake without ever touching it or seeing it in person? In today's video, my aim is to equip you with the tools to minimize your risk of getting scammed. Because if someone like Jarchomp can get scammed, then so can you. Let's get straight into this video. Hey guys, it's Thomas and you're watching Pokemonster. If you're new to my channel, I like everything related to Pokemon cards, from collecting, investing, vending, and I recently started my own Pokemon business and I'm documenting the journey on my YouTube channel. Now in today's video, I've got a little bit more of an unfortunate video because obviously nobody likes to see anybody get scammed, not least one of the biggest PokeTubers in the space losing out quite a few $1,000s. Now I want to give props to Jarchomp Collectibles for coming clean and honest about it, because obviously not everyone would always be posting maybe their losses on YouTube. Now, why am I on my Instagram page? Before I get into talking about the card, I need to show my credibility in the fact that I identified this card, or I had strong suspicions that it was fake based on the principles that I applied to authenticating it. Because otherwise the rest of this video doesn't have any value, because why should you believe someone who is only commenting on a fake card after it has been confirmed as fake, right? So I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but if you head over to my Instagram page, which is PokemonsterTCG, and you click on my Mew highlights, which I've got currently on my mouse, you'll see that 2 months ago I tried to bring some awareness to this topic. Now, I'm not saying I expected this to reach Jarchomp, but I did try. So if you guys are interested in seeing what I was commenting on, obviously I was never able to be 100% certain because I never had the card in hand, but I was as close to certain as I could be. So make sure to check out my Mew highlights page if you're interested in seeing my credibility. But don't worry if you don't want to check that out, because in today's video, I'm going to go through the entire process of layers and systems of how I felt that this card was completely off. Okay. So very firstly, if you guys are not familiar with what this card was, this was a simplified Chinese, almost like a trophy card. It's a rare card limited to 1510 copies. Now, this is an explicit reference to Pokemon 151, but obviously they probably wanted to make it a little bit more available than just having 151 copies. So they released 1510 copies. And the market price for this card is very, very high. In PSA 10 grade, it's going for about 20,000 US dollars. So you can see why this card is desirable. It's limited and it's exclusive to simplified Chinese cards. Then we need to go back to when I first came across this card on Jarchomp's video. So this was one of his pickup videos, and I hope Jarchomp, if you're watching this video, that you won't mind me using small clips from your videos. So on screen right now is the exact time where I first came across this card and had my suspicions. So this was Jarchomp showing the recent pickup that he made, and straight off I thought that something was off looking at this card, and I'm gonna go into why. So the first few characteristics that we need to figure out about this card are that it's a simplified Chinese card. It's exclusive simplified Chinese so far, so there are no equivalent Japanese or English copies. But also the thing that I identified first, and the thing that felt off to me, is regardless of the fact that this is a promo card, you should be able to identify what type of set card rarity it relates to, right? Because this promo card is basically going to have the same characteristics as special art rares or special illustration rare cards. You can tell that from the borders, from the fact that there is glitter on here, and the fact that there are light rays going across the card. This is basically a confirmation that even though it's marked as a promo card, it should have the characteristics of a special art rare or special illustration rare. And this was a very important first point for me when I was looking at this card, because when you look in this video, do you notice anything about this card? So I'm showing a quick clip about this, but the color of it seemed very flat. Now, what do we know about SAR cards? We know that they should be glittery. That's one of the key characteristics of an SAR card, right? More so, one thing that we need to know is that simplified Chinese cards are printed in Japan. Now, I always knew this was the case, but I wanted an extra source to confirm. So hopefully Crystal Collects, you won't mind me referencing your website as you guys can see, simplified Chinese cards should have Japanese card quality because they are printed in Japan. So you get the double whammy here with this card in that it should have Japanese card quality and it should have the standard SAR glitter. Now let me show you a comparison between what I saw in video and what my Japanese SAR cards look like. Let's take a look at this card in slow motion and you will see that although it is a shiny card and although it is a textured card, it is lacking any sort of glitter whatsoever. And I'm putting it side by side with all my other SAR cards, where hopefully you will be able to compare what a true SAR card should look like. So I'm gonna pan. SAR cards should look like this, but not like what I saw on screen. So that was the first red flag to me. But obviously when you're looking across the screen, you know, the lighting might be a little off. So it wasn't at that point that I was absolutely convinced that the card was fake, but that was one of the key points. Once you find a single thing that feels off, you're already past the post. You've already satisfied the criteria for starting to get suspicious, okay? So for me, that first thing was the lack of SAR glitter that I would see on that Mew. Now the second thing, which is probably more important, which is something I've learned through this process, was the texture. I'm going to compare the texture of the card that Jarchomp had in his video against the official texture, against the official scan. This is an official scan of the Mew 151. The thing that I've learned with Pokemon cards is that out of all the cards I've had, I have never seen two identical cards have different texture patterns. Now this is very important. This is not something that has ever been officially confirmed by the Pokemon company. But if you look at your own cards against official scans, I'd be surprised if you find any where the texture is different. The only exception to this that I have ever come across is texture shift, which is completely different to the point that I'm making right now. Texture shift is just a print issue where the layering of the card texture hasn't been aligned properly to where it should be on the card. But here I'm talking about a completely different difference in texture. So let's look at this. So on the left hand side, I have got a screen grab from Jarchomp's latest video because it gives me a better image quality than what I was working with when I was first kind of authenticating this card. If we put this side by side, and I know you're not going to be convinced from the first comparison that I do, because when I spoke to my friends about this at the time, none of them were convinced. None of them believed me. But if you look at the texture, so on the right hand side, I've got the official scan. On the left hand side, I've got Jarchomp scan. What do you notice about the flower up here? You notice that the flower pattern on Jarchomp's card has a central focal point in the texture, which starts as a circle and which then branches out in circular motion. When you look on the equivalent official scan, you don't see that circle at any point. You actually just see a few curved semicircles going around in this direction like that. There's no circular pattern going all the way out. Once I saw that, that's when the alarm bells started ringing for me. Now, if you look at the rest of the texture around here, it's actually quite similar. So obviously these fakes are quite good, right? They've done quite a good job at mirroring this wavy texture for the rest of the card. So it's kind of hard to identify, but keep watching. This is the bit that really convinced me. Let's zoom in on this little plant here. What do you notice? You can very clearly see that the texture pattern on this proxy card is going in a completely different direction to the texture pattern here. Again, here it's just semicircle curved going in one direction. Here it's going from down to up, down to up, down to up. Now you guys let me know if I'm wrong. I have not seen any textured card in my life where there is such a marked difference in the texture between a printed card and the official scan. If you look at these patterns also on the side, you'll see here it's going upwards, here it's just going straight. Now let me show you guys the final bit of this texture. Look at the texture for this plant here, it's going completely up pretty much, and here it's not completely up, it's going from left and then up. So in my system, Jarchomp's card did not have the SAR glitter, which I've just reconfirmed by looking at this video, and the texture pattern was completely off. And the final thing that added to all of this was that when I looked at this card, the bottom just looks so blurry, and the card almost looks like it is in low resolution, sort of. Like there's some sort of weird gloss. If you notice a distinct difference in the texture, there is most likely a red flag there that you should be investigating further. Now, I'm not saying I expected everyone to know this, because as I said, when I presented this to a lot of my friends, a lot of them sort of dismissed it or said it was inconclusive. You should be able to identify the spec of the card, so to speak, even where it is a promo card. This was very obviously meant to be a special illustration rare, and the card was lacking any of the glitter to come to expect of a special illustration rare. Don't forget also that the circumstances through which your seller bought their card can often be something that's not based on the card, but something that can give you a clue as to whether the card or the product that you're buying is legit or not. So really, the way I look at it is I assume it's a real card, and then I try to look for anything that I can discount it with, rather than looking for similarities and then stacking them up, because as long as there's one big difference, that's enough to ring off the bells in my head. Be very, very careful buying these Chinese 151 Mew cards. This video is not going to be applicable to every type of fake card, because some cards just simply don't have texture, but also just be aware that the presence of texture is no longer a defining factor in the authenticity of a card. Let me repeat that. The presence of texture is no longer the defining factor in the authenticity of a card. These fakes now are able to recreate the texture to a very high degree, and in some cases where the texture is maybe simpler, I would expect that they are almost able to replicate it one-to-one. So really what you need to think about is a multitude of factors, and as long as something feels off, make sure to question it. I wasn't really planning on doing a video like this. I will resume to investment, business content, collection videos going forward. But I did feel like I needed to put this out there, because hopefully it'll reach as many people as it can, so that people don't get scammed again buying these cards. And if there's one thing I can ask you to do, it is to share this video with your friends, so hopefully they learn something. If you guys think I got anything wrong, or if you guys want to add anything to the discussion, please feel free to in the comments. I would very much welcome it. With that said, I just want to give a quick shout out to my channel members on screen right now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for another Pokemon video. Happy collecting.